Hi, welcome to The Lord's Delight, the very first episode of this new podcast. Today, I'm going to be talking about Jonah. Yes, the very same Jonah who is famous for being swallowed by the fish. We'll be looking at the very first incident, like the early part of the first chapter, where it talks about Jonah sleeping. That is what we will be talking about today. In Jonah chapter 1, verse 5, we see that the Bible describes him sleeping as fell into a deep sleep. To give some context, this happens right after Jonah refuses to do what God asked him to. That is, he refused to go to Nineveh and is actually fleeing to Tarshish. In verse 4, Bible says that there was such a violent storm that it threatened to break up the ship. Can you imagine sleeping peacefully in such a situation? Already in a ship, it's not stable enough that you sleep in such a deep sleep, but there was a storm which was causing everybody to panic. Also remember, this was not like a cruise ship that or a yacht that generally people travel on like they do nowadays. This made me think. Here, Jonah defied God openly. He knew what God wanted and still defied but was able to sleep peacefully. This hit me very powerfully because a lot of times in my personal lives and day to day life, when I make decisions, I think if I have peace of mind, then I am going in the direction God wants me to. But this, when I was reading through this and reflecting on this, it made me pause and think. Just because I have peace of mind does not necessarily mean I'm going in the direction God wants me to. And sometimes when I defy Him, I'm still able to be at peace with myself because that is not what I wanted to do. In contrast, if we see Job, when we read about what all he was going through after losing his kids, his wealth, and health, he actually says that his sleep has gone because he's been afflicted with night terrors and nightmares. But this was a person who was called by God as righteous and he did no wrong. Losing sleep and having nightmares that Job went through was a testing season, but that does not mean that he was not right with God. And of course, it was a season in Job's life and it was not something that persisted throughout. So I realized that taking or having sufficient, superficial peace of mind does not mean that I was doing or I am traveling in the direction that God wants me to. One thing to also note here is Jonah disobeying God also put the people around him in peril. Because of one person, that is Jonah's disobedience, everybody in the ship thought that they were going to lose their lives. But the interesting part is that Jonah knew that he was in the wrong, and how awesome it is to have a God who gives us second chances and third chances and a lot more chances. I say this from a place of having gone through a Jonah experience myself. At one point in my life, I had a really good job, earned quite well, and was living in a country which I thought was my future, like where I was going to settle. And I was not living far from God. In fact, I was working with Him, doing ministry for Him, and like being in His will. And at that point, what God asked me to do was very hard for me to obey. He asked me to leave that country, give up that job, and move to a different place. This was not a strange place. He was asking me to move back to my own home country, which was not pleasing for me to hear at that time. Exactly like Jonah, I did run away from God, trying to change cities and like maybe that would appease him or looking for a different job. Jonah made the decision to turn around and obey God in the belly of the whale. Mine happened in the belly of a car. But just as he protected Jonah, God protected me. The car which I was driving was totaled, but God protected me so much that I walked away from that incident with a band aid on my finger. Right after that accident, I remember looking up and telling God, you know what, God, I will give in, I will obey, and I will go where you tell me to go. But I was not happy about it, just like Jonah. It has been quite a few years since then, and I can see why God brought me back, and I am glad that I obeyed. And I also love the fact that I have a God who gives second chances, third chances, and so many chances. Just remember, even if you feel like a Jonah at some point, running away from what you think or what you hear from God, you can always go back. And the reassuring part is, He doesn't give up. He keeps coming after us because He loves us so much. Hope this encouraged you and helped you. This is the first episode, which is part of a series on the different sleep incidents in the Bible. So, watch out for the next one, and I'll see you. Oh, and don't forget to check out the Lord's Delight blog as well. Thank you. Bye.